As you know, we are focusing on Tesla here to capture the upside of the age of AGI, with Tesla being my favorite target for Pioneer Alpha and for generating maximum returns at optimized risk. And that is exactly what we are doing. And Tesla is behaving exactly as predicted. So today we have a tremendous day that is just sequentially adding to the beautiful days we had before. Tesla up amazingly, uh, let's look at this, currently 3.95%. That is very nice performance of the stock, especially when we consider where it was just 5 days ago. We were at a low here, May 6th at 385. And Tesla is now on the strongest 33% up run it was in a very, very long time. So are we surprised by that? And why? What is happening? Why is this all happening? As you know, I made very clear 4 weeks ago that we will be back to 400 in no time, which was true, and that from here we are going to go back to all-time highs also in no time. And just to repeat the basic thesis here, when you look at the 6 month charts, we hit all-time highs December 16th at 490 effectively. Then went into a long slide in Q1, as I also made very clear that that was my conviction this is going to happen. And I prepared accordingly. We will get to the outcomes of these predictions in terms of performance in a second, before we then look forward what is happening this week and next week and so on, in my opinion. So the thesis is very, very simple. December 16th, we hit 490. Why? Because the market was on a bull run. AGI was the big talking point. The Mag 7 were high. Markets were on all-time highs. And so Tesla also reached all-time highs because people were looking into, well, Tesla has an amazing story. It is one of the great AI stocks. It is the only one that has physical AI under control and is beautifully positioned to capture that upside through robotaxis, through autonomous humanoid robots that are coming, Optimus. And so the market was saying, we believe that Tesla is a major AI stock, and we price it exactly at that point, 490. And for me, as someone who's not necessarily a technical analyst, I don't believe in it too much. I'm mostly fundamental and macro oriented. I look at the markets. I try to understand where the market is going, and then I'm zeroing in on winner stocks like Tesla, also Nvidia, some others, MicroStrategy, a little Bitcoin, but Tesla at the center, and try to understand what the market is technically pricing that stock at. I know what my internal fair value for Tesla is based on fundamentals, but in order to really extract maximum alpha, I also need to understand one aspect of technicality for a stock, and that is the relative values the market puts on the stock. And when we hit that all-time high, I got information out of that. Here's the technical information I got out of that. That the market believes at the height of the bull run that the fair value of this future potential of Tesla, of Optimus and Robotaxi is at 490 when the market is in a very good mood. Now, I was telling everyone the market is now exceeding its all-time high. So the market is in the same or better good mood than back in December, and Tesla is objectively on all possible metrics a stronger company than it was in December, on December 16th. From that follows very logically that it was just a question of time before the market pushes Tesla back up to all-time highs. That is my exact reasoning, and I believe it's extremely sound reasoning. And that means for me, 490 is the minimum that we are aiming at as long as the market keeps running. But don't forget, 490 is exactly only two trading days away from today, based on what we have seen today and a few days before today. So we can get to 490 very, very quickly. And that is what I also think is going to happen potentially this week or next week. No, it's a probabilistic thing. I'm not guaranteeing that, obviously, but I'm betting on it. a little less strongly than I was betting on a run up before, because the closer we get to my target, the lower my confidence will be, because the less pressure on the stock is to get there, right? Makes sense. If we are at 390 and we have to go to 490, I'm extremely bullish that this will run like crazy. When we are at 450, the bullishness gets reduced because we have more leeway of running up a little less extreme. Once we hit 490 and we don't see Robotaxi scaling above 100 or 200 at the same point, I would become a little cautious, and I will get there in a second. First, I want to do a quick review. We did this yesterday, but I'll do a very quick review here, where we stand with Pioneer Alpha, the Pioneer Reserve, and the whole trading situation. Were we able to capture on that momentum? And the answer is yes. We were up an unbelievable 22% on the entire portfolio last week. Why was that? Because I predicted it, I had very high conviction, and I went all in, mostly short puts on Tesla at the money, slightly in the money, clearly levered, of course. And that gave us an unbelievable 12% alpha over Tesla. Tesla went up 9.6% last week. We went up 22%. Unbelievable. Absolutely nailed it. There was zero chance included in here. It was very deliberate. And year to date, we are now up 36%, totally outperforming every benchmark, NASDAQ, S&P, MCSI, of course TSLL, of course Tesla. We are up 41% over Tesla. And also ARK, when you look at ARKQ, outperformed by 20%, and RK outperformed by 33.9, 34% this year. And since inception, of course, we're beating them all too dramatically. So very good, very well executed. Everything went perfectly so far this year, both in the negative mini bear market when things were going down. You remember when I predicted that, I did a much better job this year than last year for Q1. Last year, Q1, I predicted similar things for Q1. I knew it's going to be bad, but I failed to execute accordingly, at least with the discipline I would expect from myself. So this year I was much more disciplined, which gives us this massive alpha over that period. Okay, so this is happening. So everything looking very good in Pioneer Lands. We are doing the job we are assigned to do by the pioneers. Also the Pioneer Reserve now with the Pioneer Alpha bond products, where I am now at the hook, on the hook to deliver superior alpha to our Pioneer investors. I will get to this at the end of this video. The people who want to now participate with that whole situation. So I feel a little more responsibility. We are getting close to the first close across 2 bond products that capture this whole thing. But let's first talk about what is happening next. Okay, what do I think happens next? I made very clear already, 490 is my target short term for Tesla. Now, very important, what I get, what I catch people doing on X, which is a mistake. Now everyone gets bullish, the animal spirits out, and people are saying, oh my God, this is the repricing. We're going straight to 600. We're going straight to 1,000 now. Because SpaceX is coming, the merger is coming, Robotaxi is coming, Optimus. Now the market is bullish. Now we're on a giant run. I have to warn everyone, that's not how it works. My thesis is very simple. And I think my thesis is the conservative thesis that is technically very likely to be right. And that is what I just explained. And when I explain something, it's very important to listen closely. I mean exactly what I say and nothing else. My thesis is the market is higher than it was in December. Tesla is stronger than it was in December. Therefore, we have a technical forcing function back to all-time highs. But we will reach all-time highs potentially as early as this week. Maybe next week, if the market holds up. Now, if that happens, I will be very cautious. I will not try to ride this to death. We have to be very cautious here because one thing is clear. When you look at Robotaxi Tracker, for example, forget Optimus. Optimus is not even here. So when it comes to the cold-blooded market, and you look at Robotaxi Tracker, we are all very excited about what we are seeing, right? We are all excited about this exponential growth. Look at this exponential growth of the robotaxis here. Boom. But when you look at the absolute numbers, look at this 39. Now, I'm very excited about it. You're very excited about it. But is it cold-blooded, imagination-free, conventional, traditionalist, institutional investor going to be excited about this? No, they're going to laugh. They're like, are you kidding me? 39? Waymo has 3,000. What are you guys talking about? This is nothing and it means nothing. That is exactly what they think. In short, we have to understand when we look at a run-up like this, what is actually happening? I tell you what's happening. Nothing is happening. All this is a normal getting back to all-time highs for completely technical and market reasons. And of course, backed by the fundamental facts that Tesla is stronger than it was in December. We launched Cybercab in time. We now start delayed, but at least we start scaling unsupervised. The quarterly numbers look pretty good. Sales are rebounding. So this is all fine. But the only thing we can be sure of is it should be at 490. We can absolutely not be sure. I want to absolutely emphasize this. We can absolutely not be sure it should be at 500. We can also absolutely not be sure it should be at 550 or 600. In fact, I would actually point out we have to be very cautious here. Not yet. We absolutely should go back to 490 logically, but then we have to become very cautious because we will be at the complete mercy of the market. Once we exceed the 490, everything above that is complete randomness and arbitrary, as long as Robotaxi doesn't prove itself, as long as we don't get close to that forcing function of 1,800. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm talking here as the one responsible for delivering superior returns to all pioneers who are investors in the Pioneer Reserve. So I have to be more responsible than you guys, maybe, if you're just trading your own money, or even more true if you're just long-term investing your money. You're going to say, Joe, what do you want? Isn't it obvious that Robotaxi is coming? Isn't it obvious that unsupervised is working? Isn't it obvious Optimus is coming? Of course it's obvious. But the difference for me as someone who has to generate superior alpha all the time, otherwise I'm very angry with myself. The difference between betting on Tesla at 490 and going all in, and then Robotaxi not scaling, and Robotaxi only scaling in September or whatever, and in between disappointing everyone, and the stock dropping back down to 450 or whatever when the market gets weaker, if it gets weaker, and me being full in and taking the loss, versus me being more cautious and understanding we might go into a period, and even if that period is only 4 weeks, even if that period is only 4 or 8 weeks of sideways or down movement from 490, the difference between not being fully invested or leveraged at 490 when it goes down, if it maybe go down, versus being full in and leveraged when it goes down, for me, it's very significant. And that's why when I talk about these things, you have to understand I'm not talking as a long-term believer in Tesla. I'm talking about someone who has to generate alpha every single week over Tesla. I need to be much better than Tesla. And that means I need to predict it with sufficient certainty what is going on, or understand that I don't have the certainty. So my take on this whole thing is once we reach 490, I'm going to get very cautious and I'm going to assume the run is for now over. It might still go over 500. Maybe the run continues a little bit, but it will be a very weak, unstable, unreliable run. And we have to understand the difference. When we were at 390, I had complete confidence. Complete means 95% plus that we have to go up. At 490, I have absolutely no confidence we have to go up. I also don't have any. I have more confidence we have to go down tactically than going up. Now, would I absolutely bet against Tesla going to 550? Of course, no. I'm not gonna bet. I'm not gonna bet against that very strongly. I might sell some covered calls. I sell even maybe some non-covered calls if I see certain patterns up there, because nothing is nicer than making money when Tesla goes down. But I'm not going to hard bet against it, especially if you're on a run. I'm not guaranteeing we are not going to go to 550. I'm just saying 490 for me is the critical point I need to see. I have high conviction in, less conviction now than down here, but still high conviction, and that's what I'm going to execute on. So there you have it for now. Now let's look at how I actually work through this from a trading perspective, because some people ask me some questions. What do we do if we have conviction into a certain run? Well, it depends. So a run from 390 to 490 is not an insane run, right? It is not a repricing. It's a tactical move where you can have breathing pauses in between. And so that's why I did not do a long call strategy. So you have basically three options when you know it's going up. You can buy the stock, very expensive. You have to go on margin if you want to exceed 100%. You can't buy a lot on margin, right? You are very limited, maybe 2x if you're lucky. And that costs you interest and all kinds of stuff. The second option is you can buy long call options, short running, in the money, long running, out of the money, whatever you want. The problem when you go long calls is you're putting the odds against you. If you go long calls, you pay massive premiums by definition. And if nothing happens or we go sideways, even if we go up but not enough, you start losing money. At least you have opportunity costs. Now, the advantage of long calls is you can massively create synthetic leverage, like massive 20x, 30x, whatever you want. But you also have that time decay. I do not like being on the losing side of the statistics, of the probabilities. That's why I hate being long any kind of option. And that also means I love being short options, because then time is on your side. And I want to explain this now just very briefly. I did this before, but so you guys understand what I'm doing here. So if I believe this goes up to 490, right, on a 1 to 2 week time scale, pretty reasonable chance, very reasonable chance, what do? We are currently at roughly, where are we, 445.19. And what I do is I use my put. Here's the puts, right on the right side. Here you see the puts. Can I mark this? No. Here you see the puts. Here's at the money. So here's the 445 strike price. I selected May 15th. So that's Friday expiration. So you have until Friday for this whole exercise. And as you see, very typical, you have like 1 week trading gives you roughly 10 bucks. Okay, let me explain what that exactly means. If you're selling this 445 put, and by the way, don't do anything stupid. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. This is not a recommendation. You have to be very cautious and you can get completely destroyed with short puts. Short puts at the money, I prefer them over long calls because time is on your side, as I will explain. But you have to watch this like crazy because you have unlimited loss potential. You can get completely destroyed here if you are not cautious. But if you do it right, you constantly make money even if you're wrong. So if you sell 445 put, that means if Tesla goes straight sideways and does nothing until Friday and goes from 445 to 445, or goes to 460 and falls back to 445, you keep the entire premium. You're selling these puts without having them. You get your 1,000 bucks into your account per contract. You know, you always sell 100, of course. So that represents 100 shares. 965 means you're getting 965 bucks, or bid ask here in between, 950 bucks per contract. If you sell, you know, you can do the math. If you sell 100 contracts, you get 95,000 bucks into your account. And if Tesla does nothing or goes up, you're keeping your 95,000. That's not bad for a week. So, okay, that is happening here. Now, you have to think in scenarios. Don't get carried away with all the stupid options numbers and the Greeks. This is stupid. Forget it. Be pragmatic. Be like concrete. So you have different scenarios. If Tesla is at 445 or above by Friday this week at expiration, you're keeping the entire premium. So if you bet on Tesla going up and you are right, you keep all the money. Now you have to understand the fact that you get 950 for that thing means it's the equivalent of owning the stock and this thing going to 454. So if the stock does not go beyond 454 by Friday, you would have made more money selling short that put. That's the beauty of this thing, right? If Tesla drops, if you're wrong, if I am wrong, and the run stops and we're dropping, you can drop all the way effectively to 435 and still not lose a dime. You could drop actually $5 and you still make half of the money. That's what you have to understand. When you plot this out, you see why short puts are so powerful, why I love these, why these are my go-to instrument. If you think Tesla goes up and you make a bet on Tesla going up with short puts, and you make $10 of the short puts in 1 week premium, right? And you're wrong, and Tesla goes actually down $5, you still get paid half of the premium. It is still the equivalent of Tesla going up to 450, right? If you're long Tesla, not even on calls, if you're long on stocks, Tesla would have to go up to 450. You have to make a bet on Tesla going up, and you need to be so right that it goes at least to 450 or to exactly 450 to make you the same amount of money as the put makes you if it drops against your prediction to 440. And if you know anything about being right and wrong and odds, you understand how amazing this is. I'm betting against you or someone else. Someone says, no, Joe, you're wrong. Tesla's going down. I say, no, I'm right. Tesla's going up. And if you go short puts and you lose your bet, you still win. Like, let that sink in. Now you lose when you're really wrong, right? If I'm saying it's going up to 450, 455, maybe 490, who knows? We get to this in a second. But then it drops against me. It would need to drop dramatically to 435. Not dramatically, but you know what I mean. If I think it goes up and it goes down 10, I'm kind of really wrong and still don't get hurt. So that is why you have to understand, if you do this consistently, you are putting the odds on your side consistently. You're betting it's going up. If it goes up, you win. If it goes sideways, you win. If it goes a little down, you win. Only if it goes down a lot, you lose. Now, if it goes down super a lot, that's where you get punished for this. Then you get destroyed. You don't lose, you get destroyed because this is a very bad situation. So you have to watch this very closely. So now, next question, and that is very relevant here. When you go back to the beginning of the week and we were at 400 or something, and I do that strategy at 400 and make my $10 and then it runs up to 410, I'm getting nervous as an alpha generator. Not nervous in the sense that I can lose anything. If it goes up, I will always keep the entire premium, but I'm losing my alpha because my alpha is relative to the stock. If the stock goes from 400 to 410, I sold it at 400 put for $10 down. At 410, I'm kind of even, right? I would have been as well off buying the stock as selling the put. But if it goes above 410, I have to act. And that's the tricky part. I have to act because otherwise I'm not maintaining my alpha. I'm just keeping my stupid little premium while this thing runs up as it did. So then you need to do stacking, or I need to do stacking, right? So then I have to say, well, I made all the dough here, but I need to make more dough. And then I need to keep selling at the money, right? So I have to stack up. I keep my sold puts, maybe a day later, and then I have to keep selling 410. If it continues to run up to 420, I have to rotate it into 420, which is dangerous if you have a fake bull run and then drop, because then you're in trouble, right? So that's kind of the game. That's where, if you would look at my account, I have like, I don't even know. I have like 15 different short put contracts right now. Not 15 count, like way more than 15 count, but 15 different types because I had to stack up and run up. And that worked like a charm. Now I have nothing against a little breather at this point, which we take right now as we speak. This is actually good for me because if it's too steep, the run up, I'm losing my alpha a little bit. So I like a breather. For me, the ideal situation would be if we end up at 440, tomorrow take a little breather, allow me to reposition, assess the situation, if the run continues or if we take a little drop before we go to 490. And that determines how I keep selling these contracts, right? So if you do this short put selling and you go up from 400 to 490 in a straight line, maybe 20 per day up, that's not an ideal situation. That is actually a call option situation. You want to be long calls like crazy if you are just on a massive run up. So that's the trick. If we are going into repricing, if we are going into robotaxis getting to 100 and then 200 and then 400 and then 800 week after week, I would absolutely switch in very rare situation, but I would switch into aggressive long calls. Because if you go on a crazy run, this is not a crazy run. 390 to 490 is not a crazy run. A crazy run is 400 to 1,000 or 500 to 1,000, which can absolutely happen with Tesla, by the way. Everyone forgets about this, but if robotaxi happens and we scale into multiple thousands quickly, this stock can go straight to 1,000. So then you need to be prepared. You need to either stack like crazy the short puts, or you need to go on a long call situation. But the long call situation is very stressful. I mean, it feels very good if you print insane amounts of money, but it's very stressful. So that is the situation. And I can just tell you, I had my second best day actually of the year today, surprisingly. The best one was last week. So all of that leads to our nice little performance here. And this is very deliberate, by the way. This is not a random trading strategy. You see a lot of people on X saying, I made 10,000X or something. Fine. Let's see how long you keep it. Like, this is a 2.5 year strategy now that is long-term effective. And we are doing this for our investors, of course. You have here the Pioneer Reserve Luxembourg securitization vehicle that I manage now. And you see here our different bond terms. You can go to pioneeralpha.org if you're interested in this. It's only for qualified investors, of course, in Europe, Canada, UK, Switzerland, and of course, the great United States, which is our main focus. We have structured the Pioneer Alpha portfolio into 3 different bonds. Tesla plus 50, where the deal is no fees. This entire thing is fully captured by the bond up to Tesla as a benchmark. If Tesla goes up 300% at maturity of that bond and Pioneer Alpha goes 400 up, the investors and the bondholders of this bond get no fees up to Tesla 300% plus the 50% of the differential of the alpha. So here are all these tables. And then we have growth 45 designed for a much more stabilized return, where the maximum bond payout is 200% over the principal based on the performance, but it's capped. So this is designed to deliver up to 45% a year at a much lower risk than the underlying Pioneer Alpha portfolio. Lower risk means lower volatility. And then we have income 12, where this pays out 12%, 1% per month, paid as 3% quarterly of the principal, plus up to 100% additional gain at maturity. All 3 are based on the same underlying portfolio. They're all getting pooled into the same portfolio that I manage, which is exactly the strategy I explain here on the channel, and then we go from there. So this is very exciting for us because we just launched this. We're going to close the first ones in May, very soon. And I will report on that, of course, to all of you guys, Pioneer Lands. We are doing that to test run different ways of slicing and dicing the Pioneer Alpha advantage that we generated so far. Not a promise of future returns. Everything is risky and at risk. But our job is in Pioneer Lands to stabilize these returns from Tesla, from NVIDIA, and so on. By the way, today I got a very nice boost on top of Tesla by MicroStrategy, top performer, Robinhood, and NVIDIA. They're all performing great today. They're also portfolio pieces. Not options leveraged. That's only Tesla right now, but good chunks. So the mission here is to actually maintain that and give that advantage, translate it into more stable returns. That's the theory. And so far it works. to the pioneers. So the pioneers who like growth 45 or income 12 can definitely mathematically guaranteed sleep calmer than the Tesla plus 50 investors, but the Tesla plus 50 investors get more upside. So that's happening here. And that is it in a nutshell. That is my outlook. Let's see if we have questions. Probably a bunch. Nice green day. Exactly. Oh, we have invest answers here. Hey, James. Very nice. I think, is this all YouTube? Yeah, this is all YouTube. We have a combined stream with X, but everyone is on YouTube. I launched calls 1227 when price was circa 423. I mean, that's a leap strategy that I think it's good. I don't know your strike price, but that's good. Take half of your profits and let the rest ride. That's like when you're long, yes. I don't do that with short puts. You only you keep it weekly. Anyone who has been long term, I'm 2009, has seen this a few times. That's correct, Steve. That was a very important experience for every Tesla investor who wants to ride the white bull when it happens. And you know, it's very important when you invest not to be an emo. You have to always have your Google Sheet out and use your brain and do scenarios. Because who cares if my stock goes sideways for 5 years? Who cares? This is one of the big Zen enlightenment moments you have when you do trading and investing in the stock market. Don't get distracted by things you don't understand and you could not predict. Don't get distracted by SanDisk. Like, who the hell knows what SanDisk is doing? Not me. I don't care that people made 4,000%. Someone made 4,000%. I didn't, but there are also tons of people who lost a ton of money with software stocks or whatever. Don't get distracted. Focus on yourself. Be a little zen. Focus on your knowledge. Focus on my knowledge. Focus on the knowledge of the people you have a relationship with and dive deep and be happy. Be happy with your 50, 60, 70% a year. That's better than Warren Buffett. So don't look at SanDisk and go nuts because it tempts you to jump on trains you don't understand, jump on them too late. By the way, Micron Technologies might not be late. Who knows? It might run up more, but I don't know that. I know what Tesla is going to do. So I will focus on Tesla and on the other stocks adjacent. Focus on them and nail it. And then you can be happy. So Anthony, if you have 50,000 cash, that will be the easiest 1,000 you will be able to make in a week selling puts. Well, I agree with that, obviously, but don't tell people it's easy. Like, when this goes wrong, it's very painful. So, but yes. Joe, you need to do a show with James and Larry Goldberg. Yes, I love James and Larry. I had, when Herbert was on vacation, I had one show with Larry, where Larry was Herbert. And I had a great show with James. That was a lot of fun. But we have to do more. I agree. Greed is dangerous. Exactly. Greed, fear, pride. Everything is dangerous. Just use your brain. Frontal cortex, not dangerous. Google Sheets, not dangerous. If you look at the 7 deadly sins, Google Sheet is not one of them. Frontal cortex, also not. Tesla is abnormally overvalued, even at 300. I disagree. I think it is undervalued. My fair value is much higher than what it is right now. Andrea Auer says, I agree with not being distracted is the best play. Knowing the company well is a real edge. 100% agreed. That is my strategy. The biggest mistake in investing is to be jealous. The biggest mistake is to chase stuff you don't understand just because other people do it. Take your time, zero in on something, and also learn this whole, that's why I do Pioneer Alpha and share my insights. Understanding derivatives and options is very powerful. And I tell you why. If you become a master of options, Forget the Greeks, forget all the options trading tricks. Just understand how options work fundamentally. Calls, right to buy, puts, right to sell. Then you can buy or sell calls or puts, and then you got the whole thing. And then you just look at the prices and use your brain and predict scenarios. Why are derivatives so powerful? Because they allow you to move to the next level of investing or trading. And that is not just to have to identify a stock and be right that it goes up a lot. It's very one-dimensional, this. Now you are in a whole new realm where you can make money by just being right, independent of the stock going up or down. Okay? As long as you are right about the prediction, as long as you're right about your level of confidence and probabilistic confidence about what's going to happen, and structure your options around it, you will make a lot of money. That's how I made a lot of money with Tesla going actually down. Okay, that's why I generated alpha while it was going down. So options are the magic for this. You just have to become very disciplined about it and be cautious. Ives, an excellent AI ETF. Yes, Dan Ives is great, and his little ETF too. How do you protect yourself if the stock is going down fast and you find yourself losing? Well, you need to develop a certain, unemotional cold-bloodedness about it, and you need to understand, once you dabble around with options, especially short puts or calls, this becomes a full-time job. You cannot afford to not track the stock in 10-minute increments. You also have to understand it's worth it. Like, imagine you have 100,000 or 200,000 or a million or something, and you're selling for $9, 100 contracts, you're making $90,000 a week. So it's kind of worth your time. That's what I'm saying. Even if you make $9,000 a week, that's still very good if you only sell 10. I had 445 call bought at the wrong time, could have gotten them for 0.03. It went to 315. Well, yeah, that's how it goes. Is Bitcoin or Ethereum better for transactions in an AI-based economy? Of course, Ethereum. Bitcoin is not even good for transactions. That's why I'm very bullish on Ethereum. Solana is really catching up these days. Has now more assets on chain, I think, than Ethereum since last week. But sold 16 covered call contracts with 500 strike expiring next Monday. I mean, you should be very fine with that, but that's like a tiny little premium you got there. But be cautious with covered calls these days. So that is the situation here. Tesla chugging along. I am glad if it stops running like crazy for a little bit. It would be nice if it just sidelines a little bit until Wednesday so I can reposition some of my short puts. I repositioned a ton. I got a little lucky. This time I got a little lucky. I repositioned a ton actually down here today. Like a ton, was it a ton? It was pretty much a ton. It was enough to make me very happy. But now I'm a little bit exhausted. Not me, you understand. My portfolio short puts is a little exhausted up here. So above 450, I would not be happy. Right now, I wanted to be between 440 and 450 right now for a little bit until Wednesday. That would be very nice, even though I will reposition myself tomorrow depending on what the stock does. I think it's time for a tiny breather before next leg up to 490. So let's see. Because we ran up like insane. Let's be honest about that. What percent of total net worth do you recommend placing into moves you are describing? Oh, that's David, that's a difficult question. I mean, if you ask me, a very high percentage, but for me, it's a full-time job, and I've done this for quite a while. I have very high confidence in my skills at this point. And I learned it the hard way. I made one very big mistake in 2021, a stupid mistake that was completely Tesla unrelated. It was like just slacking off. It had to do with GameStop of all things. And I will never do that again. So I think that was my last piece of learning that I needed before institutionalizing. So that was very good. So it depends. This is a very complicated question, actually, because it depends on your mental status and experience. Let me put it like this. If you do anything with options, you have to be incredibly cautious. If you read Market Wizards, great book where someone who was bad at trading started interviewing the best traders in the world, who are all not institutional, by the way, they're all private, because it's like Chris Camillo and people like that, who made tremendous amounts of money, who keep making tremendous amounts of money. And he asked them about their story, and it was very telling for me that all the master options traders, basically all of them, said they lost everything they had, like everything, at least twice. It's brutal. They lost everything they had twice before they became really good. It's hard to describe. There's like huge emotional learning curves here. So you have to be very cautious. These short puts can really kill you if you don't totally pay attention. I also have a friend who's an executive, but he started really also doing trading and was pretty good at it. And then he had a baby and he lost a lot of money because of the baby. Couldn't sleep. You know how it is. Dad. Screaming baby at night. Too much going on in the job. So you can't have a full-time job and a baby and do options trading. You have to, like, this one too much. You can have a baby and be full-time options, or you can have an executive job and full-time options, or you can have an executive job and a baby, but you can't have all three. You have to choose. HIM's earnings call is now fun for me. Well, HIM's, I just hate this company. I think it's for ethical reasons, right? I think it's a powerful company and powerful stock, but I don't like it, what they're doing. Maybe do a video of your past mistakes. So we should avoid, this would be long, that would be not just one video. And it's also like, you know what, when it comes to options trading, mistakes can't be easily described. I mean, you can describe them, but there is truly an emotional learning curve. It's very hard to explain. Like, you need to feel the pain. Otherwise, you will not truly learn it. Or maybe you can. Professor Projo. Mic volume is very low. I know some people say it's low. Some people say it's not low. It's something to do with... No, I'm like against HIMS, but not because it's a bad stock, okay? I'm not saying it's a bad investment. I think it's maybe a brilliant business model. I just hate it because I was in healthcare and it's like, I think it's abusive, the whole thing. Too much drugs, drug selling. So this has nothing to do with like financial perspectives. It's purely medical. Joe, what's your thoughts on merger with SpaceX? I'm not selling Tesla, but are you against or for merger near term or further out? I'm neutral. Well, let me put it like this. You saw the Rebellionaire situation. I had a video on it. I posted on X also. A Rebellionaire responded to it. It's funny. So I will do probably more on that. Oh, we just ended trading. I didn't even pay attention. 445. Beautiful. Exactly in the middle. I'm very happy. I'm nailing it. So, yes, my baby jokes. Don't take this for not having babies. Quit your job and do options and have a baby. Okay, don't be an executive and do options and not have a baby. That's not what I meant. That's bad. But don't have all three. Then you lose them all. You will lose your baby. It will run away. Look for a different dad or mom because you neglected. You will lose your options trades and you will probably get fired from your job. You can't have all three. So, merger on SpaceX, I'm kind of neutral on it. Here's how I think about it. I think you have to have a little bit of trust in Elon because Elon has a plan and we know the plan. I totally agree with the plan. This is about bigger things. Is it tactically a disadvantage for Tesla? I do not think so. I'm very neutral on it. I believe also to some extent, I probably need a video on this to explain more my stance on the market and the ability to have rational pricing. Because some people say, Joe, you're saying it goes to 4,000 by 2030. So it's clearly undervalued now. And you're saying it's undervalued fundamentally now. So how can you also believe the market is rationally pricing Tesla and it's a fair merger price just taking these public prices? So this is a deeper economic theory discussion that we can have. But I fundamentally believe, let them do their thing. I'm very unnervous about it. I completely push back on Rebellionaire saying this is unfair or something. I think it's all fine, and I'm not nervous about it. And I'm not selling my Tesla shares, and I'm not buying SpaceX at IPO. I think it will be slightly overpriced. I think we are much better off holding Tesla. Assuming need to take some profits on Tesla right now, just plain timing. What is a good strike price to hit if I have a 10-day window? You mean long calls? I would not go long. That's the typical situation where I would absolutely do short puts. This is so much better, short puts. Sell a bunch of puts. Just give yourself a little buffer. Volume is okay for me today. Yesterday it was low. Yeah, today was pretty decent. Sound level is perfect. Yeah, I don't know why some can't hear it. Hey, Joe. What's your take on the slow growth so far on unsupervised FSD numbers, especially last few days? Well, we will have separate videos focusing on that. By the way, we made a great hire, and we will have some more here. We're building out the Pioneer Reserve as institutional, and we'll have more analysts, and we will have more FSD and robotaxi high resolution models on margin expectations and on growth and all these things. So I hope soon I can deliver to you guys and to myself some more sophisticated models. Generally, I'm not concerned. This is a thing where we see nice growth now on a very low base, of course, a little bit delayed. My main argument is Cybercap is live, it's scaling. What do we want? I mean, they have to figure it all out. I think safety is solved. From now, it's just convenience, like fine tuning. So out of 100 robotaxi rides, you know, a certain number, not more than a certain number, get annoying, like where you trap the customer in like an endless circle in some intersection or something. So that's how I think about it. I think they first solved safety, which is kind of soft. Elon said it. I believe it because you see the numbers. So now you have a certain percentage of rides that still go wrong in terms of convenience, meaning they annoy the customer because something stupid happens. Nothing dangerous, just stupid time wasting. And so out of 100 rides, let's say 10 go wrong or 5 go wrong. They probably want to get it down to 1 goes wrong, and then they can scale a little bit more up, and then they have to bring it down to 0.1 goes wrong in 100. I think that's very manageable. Okay, I think on the merger, we have to trust Elon. I agree. It sounds stupid, just trust Elon, but I agree, Manish. So Jen I6, how do you know that Iran war is mostly over now? That's also a dedicated video. I got this question from multiple people now because, you know, my opinion, it's totally over. I'm pretty firm on that. But that would require a deeper explanation. The way I look at macro is you have to look through the noise. A lot of people think, and I hate politics videos a little bit. I love my Germany videos because just everyone loves it. I get very little hate on my Germany videos. When I talk about the Middle East, oh my God, it's complete derangement syndrome, which is annoying. I'm not like a political commentator. I'm looking at this to understand the future. And when I look at Iran, there's a lot of posturing from the Trump side. Obviously, there's posturing from the Iran side. There's massive propaganda injected from the Israeli side. Then there's propaganda from everyone being injected. So you have to look through the noise and ask yourself, why are these things even happening? And what are the actual forcing functions on people? And mostly in macro and geostrategy and politics, the forcing function number one is not fake nukes or religion or something. No one cares about any of these things. People care about one thing in politics, and that is money. Everything is just about money. And when you look at Trump's situation, he cannot afford this whole thing. There was a forcing function built into the war that it needed to be finished now, because if you don't finish it, it's the end of the world, literally. And so I have very little concern that the Trump administration is ending the world. They are not going to do that. So they can't restart the war for many, many reasons. But that takes too long now to explain. The Iranians are also under more pressure than the people who are seeing them as the winners understand, in my opinion. They are under economic pressure, but they're also... Here's the trick. Iran is completely dependent on China. They are completely dependent on India. They are completely dependent on other strategic partners. These partners are telling Iran the same, the US partners are telling the US, okay, this is not debatable. You end this now. They both know they have to end it. They have no choice. I think Iran doesn't really want to end it, but they are also being forced to end it from their friends. Enough Iran for now. Curious too how you protect against the short put going against you, cutting the loss quickly and unemotionally then. Yes. So Andy, this is important. I was often in the situation this year when we had the downtrend where I was getting out of my short put positions despite having an 80 to 90%, conviction after it went against me, right? It goes against me. I'm pulling the plug on half the position. Despite having a 90% conviction, it's the wrong move and it's going to bump up back. And I was always right with that. I was always correct that it was the wrong move. But I still always do it, and it's actually the right move. It's a little complicated. So if I'm selling the 440 ATM strike and it falls to 430 and I'm overexposed, as I would be completely now, I'm pulling the plug. Even though I know with extreme high probability it's going to bounce back, I make all the money back. I still take the loss because you cannot be in a situation where you can't sleep. That's the test. Even if you have 90% certainty that this is the wrong move to de-risk, you cannot go to bed and have to pray that this thing doesn't fall more. You cannot be in this situation because from there it's just downhill. I rather say whatever, I lose 1% of my portfolio with that, moved against me, but I take the loss even though I know I get it all back and much more tomorrow because I do not want to be in the situation where I wake up and I lost 5% of the portfolio. That cannot happen. So yes, you need to have aggressive risk management. If it goes against you, you have to pull the plug, even if you know it's just fake news. It's a bear trap. So risk management is extremely important. You have to pull the plug. No war was ever ended because someone else just wanted it. That is literally not true. Probably all wars were ended because someone else wanted it. If your allies turn against you, you have to end the war or you're getting totally destroyed. So in nearly all cases, if someone wants you to end the war and that someone is the one you depend on, you end the war. Very simple. What else do we have here? Do you think Tesla continues higher and catches up the broader market being at all-time high? Yes, I believe Tesla is going back to all-time highs as long as the market is at all-time highs. That's exactly the core tactical thesis here. Can't call it unethical with no explanation. Well, this is not, I don't want to get into discussions about hims, hers, but I can tell you quickly what my problem is. I think there's a complete abuse of drugs in the United States, ridiculous levels of abuse of drugs. And I think that business model just totally accelerates it. It's a brilliant business model. They're going to make a killing, literally. But making people drug dependent even more is just horrible. So that's just my personal opinion and has nothing to do with investing. If you are doing options and have to monitor the position, does that mean cannot have regular 8 to 5 job? Yes, it depends on your job. If you can monitor options all day long in your job, you can keep the job. So there's a big difference between alpha churn strategy, where you're selling short puts, and leap strategies, where you're buying calls that are very long running because you have a clear thesis with a 12 to 18 months horizon. The alpha roll strategy, where you are buying leaps, you can keep your job. If you go short puts, you can't keep your job. It's just too dangerous. So, but you're making a lot of money with the options. So you only make money with the options if you have a very firm, deep understanding and strong directional prediction capabilities for a specific stock. So that's why it's not options trading. This is about stock prediction. So you need to pick your stock, for example, Tesla, and really deeply understand it, and then layer options around it, and then you can make a lot of money, but not with a job. Are you expecting a premium? 50% plus one of all shares outstanding will be hard to pass without a premium thought. Yes. Well, let's see where we end up, right? We have to see where we end up, but it's hard to tell, but at the current constellation, yes, a premium would be absolutely necessary for the merger. Do you buy back the stock if you sold put goes the wrong direction? How do you cover on the trade? No, I actually have a very aggressive, pure option strategy. I never conflate stocks and options. So I always close the position. If I want to use proceeds from my options trades for adding to the stock position, I do it this way, but I never actually execute stocks. Andrea lost my rational views. I don't know which of the rational views. I have so many rational views. This was existential for Iran, Trump administration, and most importantly, Israel. No way China can stop it. Let's see about that. I don't know. It's not existential at all for Trump administration. For Israel, I also don't think it's it's debatable, but definitely it's not existential for Trump, for the Trump administration. It's completely, it's completely discretionary for Trump and the United States. Do you think it's better to start selling options with a weekly or monthly experiment? Of course, weekly. You have to do the math. Here's simple math. Like, options are very simple math. I love pragmatic math, not like some stupid theoretic, like Black-Scholes model, like something so stupid I can't even believe this stuff exists. So you need to be totally pragmatic. Just look at your weekly options at the same strike price and then look at the monthly options, right? Then look at the premium you get. And you will see, oh, so many comments here. You will see that the monthly options premium, of course, is not 4 times the weekly. Just do the math, right? If you sell it weekly, you make probably twice as much money. It's that simple. There are some complex considerations where you sometimes want to go longer, but that's too complicated to explain. But generally, you have to understand, you just have to look at the premiums and sum it up on a timeline. It's a time business, right? If you sell weekly 4 times, you always make much more money than selling monthly 1 time. So monthly would have to make you 4 times the premium of weekly, and you can totally forget that. Look up the thing. Does Germany really hate Elon? Well, Germany is a lot of people. That's 80 million people. Many of them, millions, love Elon. But tens of millions might hate Elon, yes. Hast du das Hit-Piece from ARD gesehen? Did you see the hit-piece in German state TV? Hit-Piece on Elon? I haven't seen it. On Elon or on who? On me? I hope not on me. No, I haven't seen that. Okay, guys. I think we wrap it up here. It's already late. We are already over time. That was an hour. Wow. I hope this was interesting. This is my strategy. Now you know my thoughts on this here. And, well, we have more coming tomorrow. Probably not live. Let's see how it goes. Herbert is also tomorrow. And we go from there. We're working hard here at the Pioneer Reserve at Pioneer Alpha to get you a little more models, more research coming soon on Robotaxi, maybe as early as next week. Our space model is delayed. Oh, against FSD, a hit piece on our, like, these people are just ridiculous. The German state TV is so ridiculous. This is, maybe I do my next Germany video on the German, on the öffentlich-rechtlichen Rundfunk losers, on the people who operate the state TV for 10 billion euros a year. Unbelievable propaganda. Very good. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. See you very soon. Next update coming tomorrow. Stay tuned. Watch Tesla and see the future unfold before us. Thank you so much and see you soon.